Any accidental seminal discharge that a man had would cause him to be rendered in a minor state of ritualistic impurity until evening. If an accidental seminal discharge or a seminal discharge during sexual relations got onto clothing or leather, that article would have also a minor degree of ritualistic impurity until evening. When a Israelite woman had discharge of blood from her vaginal canal, she was to be rendered in a minor state of ritualistic impurity for 7 days. During these 7 days, she was to keep herself separated from her husband, fiancé, or any other man, as she was rendered in a state of ritualistic impurity throughout the duration of her menstrual cycle. Anything that woman sat on, such as saddle or chair, stool, or laid upon, such as the bed, would be rendered also as ritualistically impure. If anyone touched these things, that person was to immerse himself in a mikveh, wash his clothes, and be in a state of ritualistic impurity until the evening. If her husband had relations with her while she was experiencing her normal menstrual cycle, he would be rendered as ritualistically impure for 7 days. When an Israelite woman had a discharge of blood outside of her normal cycle, she was to observe the same separation that she was to adhere to while on her normal cycle. However, she had to observe this separation until the discharge ended. Additionally, anything that one sat on or laid upon was rendered to be ritualistically impure until the discharge ended. If anyone touched these things, that person was to immerse in a mikveh, wash their clothes, and be in a state of ritualistic impurity until the evening. When the discharge had cleared up or stopped being an issue, the Israelite woman had to count 7 days for her purification. On the 8th day, she would need to bring a dove or young pigeon as a sin offering and another dove or young pigeon as a burnt offering to the priest. After that, the woman would be declared ritualistically pure. These sexual purity laws would help preserve the sanctity of the holy tabernacle and later the holy temple. If a Israelite man or woman was sexually impure, he or she might defile the tabernacle and later the temple, which would result in his or her death. This also further separated the sexual practices of Israel from those of the pagan nations surrounding them. Leviticus 15:16-33. When 4 men with Zerah entered the camp of Aram, they found it to be abandoned. The evening before, the Armenians heard the sound of chariots and horses and fled, believing that King Jehoram had hired Egyptian and Hittite mercenaries. The men with Zerah entered one of the tents on the outskirts of the camp and plundered it. However, they realized that after plundering a second tent, they should inform Samaria of this development. Upon informing the gatekeepers of the city, Jehoram was informed that the enemy camp seemed to have been abandoned. After the advisors believed it to be a trick, Jehoram sent scouts out to survey the countryside. The scouts found Armenian armor and clothing strewn from the camp to the Jordan River. When the scouts informed the king, the populace of Samaria ransacked the camp of Aram. This permitted them to sell 6 quarts of fine flour and half a bushel of barley for $6.26 each. The servant who had challenged the revelation that the prophet had spoken was put in charge of the gate. However, he was trampled to death by the starving throngs. 2 Kings 7, 3 through 20. As he went, with the crowds on every side virtually choking him, a woman who had had a hemorrhage for 12 years and could not be healed by anyone came up behind him and touched the zizit on his robe. Instantly her hemorrhaging stopped. Yeshua asked, "Who touched me?" When they all denied doing it, Kepha said, "Rabbi, the crowds are hemming you in and jolting you." But Yeshua said, "Someone did touch me, because I felt power go out from me." Seeing she could not escape notice, the woman, quaking with fear, threw herself down before him and confessed in front of everyone why she had touched him and how she had been instantly healed. He said to her, "My daughter, your trust has saved you. Go in peace." Luke 8:42b through 48.